I'm Greg Fix, the National Guard Association of the United States, or NGAUS Aviation Task Force Vice Chair, and today's host of the NGAUS podcast. Today we'll be discussing the Future Attack Reconnaissance Aircraft, or FARA, with Sikorsky Aircraft, a Lockheed Martin company, competing to produce FARA for the U.S. Army. Raider X is Sikorsky's offering for the FARA program. We're honored that joining us today is Jay Macklin, Director of Business Development for Future Vertical Lift at Sikorsky. I wanted to give some background on Sikorsky, an established aircraft company developing and manufacturing helicopters in the commercial and military markets. Sikorsky military and commercial helicopters are in service in over 40 nations. The company currently manufactures variants of the Black Hawk medium lift helicopter for the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. And they're also a company behind the U.S. Marine Corps CH-53 Kilo King Stallion heavy lift helicopter. They also produce the VH-92 Alpha presidential helicopters and variants of the S-92 and S-76 commercial helicopters for offshore oil and VIP missions. Jay, welcome to the podcast. Jay, please take a few moments to talk about Sikorsky's aircraft over the years, and particularly the aircraft built for the U.S. military.
Great. Well, again, Greg, thank you for the opportunity to come talk to you, and we're just honored to be, a partner of the Army National Guard, and we're certainly, so appreciative of your members and what they do for our nation, whether it be their state mission or their federal mission that they, we've all seen doing, incredible things, in the war on terror. As well as the critical, if you just think about the tornadoes that just occurred, absolutely National Guardsmen jumping into the breach without hesitation. So thank you and your members for what you do. Well, Sikorsky, I guess the place to start would be September 14th, 1939, when Igor, Sikorsky crawled into his VS-300 with his fedora on and broke contact with the Earth for the first time, really launching the first helicopter in history. It was a single main rotor, had a tail rotor, and that was the first helicopter. So kind of a good place to start. Then another milestone I think that jumps out from a historical perspective is the first combat rescue of a helicopter, of a fighter pilot, was in Burma, was in 1944, at the end of World War II. And then from the 50s and 60s, continued to develop aircraft for the military, particularly the Coast Guard and the Marine Corps and the Army. And then in 1977 was the first contract with the Army to deliver the Black Hawk, the UH-60 Alpha. We're getting ready to go on our 10th multi-year right now, delivered over 2,500 Black Hawks to the U.S. Army, over 4,000 Black Hawks worldwide. But, just really, we think have been in lockstep with the military. If you think about the, combat rescue helicopter, the latest, in the long line of, the Jolly Green Giant, in Vietnam, those just absolutely brave pilots that go in and get downed, pilots behind enemy lines. The CRH aircraft, is just being fielded now in the Air Force. And then the CH-53E, which you mentioned, which is, a mainstay of the Marine Corps, the new Kilo model is now, being, in the process of being delivered to the Marine Corps right now as well. So, really all of this, is focused, on delivering a capability to the U.S. military, whether it be a Coast Guardman flying a Black Hawk plucking someone out of the, Alaskan frigid waters, or, Army pilots or National Guard pilots flying, air assault missions, that tight formation, staggered right, going into an LZ at night. So we're very proud, of our heritage, and we're excited about the future. The factory of the future is not some empty building somewhere. It currently exists in Stratford, Connecticut today. So the CH-53K and the CRH, as well as the Mike model Black Hawk, those advanced manufacturing techniques that are ongoing, with those aircraft are being applied directly into the future, which is future vertical lift we're talking about today. But again, commercial fleets, a lot of the things that we have done, the S92, advanced analytics, diagnostics, prognostics, all of these lessons learned are being moved and applied directly, whether it's from a production capability or a digital thread or an advanced manufacturing process is being moved right into the future to future vertical lift. So those aircraft will be produced with all of the best of breed that has come from everything we've learned since Igor Sikorsky first broke contact with the ground.
So along that, the answer to that question, so you've evolved from reciprocating engine and turbine helicopters to really medium and heavy lift for the military. So over the years, how have you evolved and taken lessons learned into today in the commercial and military markets?
Yeah, I'd say that really, I'd say the digital thread, I think, is what jumps out at me in response to that question, because again, it's how do you do things better? And again, we've been producing, Sikorsky's been producing helicopters for a number of years now, and the advanced manufacturing techniques, which truly make the aircraft more affordable, and then also make the aircraft more sustainable, more less maintenance intensive, and really, that digital thread allows from design all the way through production for us to be more efficient and be more producible as well as affordable. And if you look at our commercial fleet, there's a lot of with the S92 fleet, a lot of advanced analytics built into the aircraft, as well as the UH-60 Mike model, with the health and uses monitoring systems, and I think that we've really kind of the best of breed into future vertical lift, because quite frankly, you have to. I mean, the soldiers of tomorrow that are going to be flying these aircraft, these aviators, in support of the ground maneuver force, have to be maintainable, and it has to be, reliable, and it has to be producible and affordable. And we certainly understand that. And so we've taken a lot of these lessons learned through years and years of aircraft production, as well as, with the 53K, CH-53K, a lot of digital design, into that aircraft, and apply those all into FVL. And I guess the last thing I would say is that, we've been a valued, we believe a valued Army partner for over 40 plus years. And, when you live the Black Hawk mission, like a number of us have, and, as an integral partner that we feel like we are with the Army, from, sustainment to understanding what the aircraft needs and what the needs of the aviators and soldiers are, we are applying these directly into our future vertical lift offerings.
So the future vertical lift is an Army program priority. And before we start talking a little more about FARA, I want to get your thoughts on unmanned rotary wing flight and where Sikorsky sees that going over the next 5 to 10 years.
Sure, yeah, great question. I think that we all understand that there's going to be a need for some level of autonomy moving forward. If you think of just the speeds that these aircraft are being asked to fly at, and really in low-level flight environments as well. And if you just think 2030 and beyond, you're flying, low, under 100 feet, maneuvering in terrain. You've got all of these systems, these mission systems, providing, information out of the Joint Fires Network to you, and you're trying to fly that low to really avoid, these sophisticated, near-peer threats, radar threats. Controlled flight into terrain, degraded visual environment. These are all real problems that exist today in our fleets. And so when you're flying faster and lower in a higher threat environment, plus the workload that these pilots are going to have, in a future vertical lift and that in the FVL ecosystem, there's going to be a need for some sort of autonomy. Now, what that level is certainly up to the Army to write in requirements. But I will tell you that Sikorsky, Lockheed Martin Sikorsky, is very well positioned to answer whatever level the Army comes up with the need for. I mean, we have what's called our Matrix, software, which we have an S-76 that is currently flying today with this aircraft. We have an optionally piloted Black Hawk Alpha model, which is being flown today. And so, certainly no one thinks there's a full autonomous need out there because, man and woman in the loop is extremely important. And being able to be part of that joint fires network kill chain and making those real-time decisions, in FARA's case, if you're forward in a security zone, and there's a brigade combat team you're supporting, that's a very dynamic environment. And so dynamic retasking, so that we believe there's a need for a man in the loop. But again, this software can be, with the modular open system architecture that FVL is going to have, this software can be put in the aircraft, and it can be in a fully autonomous mode, or it can be in a supervised autonomous mode. But I think reducing the workload on the pilot and helping the pilots, process information, as well as fly the aircraft and land the aircraft in very dusty, dark, those dark LZs that I know you're familiar with, at night. I mean, having a system that can help you get that on the ground safely, we think is an advantage. And Sikorsky, Lockheed Martin Sikorsky has really spent a lot of time and effort to develop this capability and are currently testing it on Black Hawks and our commercial fleet.
Yeah, thank you. It's amazing to see how everything's evolved, and you're into software changes to improve things, and so it's pretty exciting. I wanted to now have you talk about the FARA mission and Raider X. Then that Raider X is your FARA offering so far.
Absolutely. Yeah, I tell you, again, you talk 2030 and beyond, it's going to be a very tough environment for these aircraft and these crews to be flying in. If you think, us old aviators that were flying in, the War on Terror, I say old, not, I guess, literally. But no, it's if you think about flying in a counterinsurgency and the type weapon systems that the U.S. Army flew against in the years and past, it was more direct fire weapon systems, RPGs, those type things. Sometimes we flew high to just get out of small arms range. Well, 2030 and beyond, I mean, we're talking about a near peer threat environment with integrated air defense systems and network, which is going to require the aircraft to fly very low and very fast. And so that's what the Army's looking for with future vertical lift, and those are, so really that's what drove our design. So back in 2008, we developed the X2 demonstrator, which is about a 6,000 pound, coaxial design. Again, these are rigid rotor blades, counter-rotating 2 sets of rotor blades, so no need for a tail rotor, a prop on the back, which accelerates and decelerates. So level body acceleration and deceleration. That aircraft flew 250 knots and it's currently hanging in the Smithsonian Institute here in Washington, out at Dulles, and the Collier Award winner for 2011. Next we produced the S-97 Raider. We scaled it to 11,000 pounds, an X2 design. And the S-97 Raider was built on company funded research and development. And that aircraft has flown 205 knots. Currently still flying down at West Palm Beach. And then we scaled it again as part of the JMRTD program, Defiant, 30,000 pounds, and that aircraft has flown 247 knots. So many years of X2, development, and we really believe that when you look at the threat environment, again, out in this time period of 2030 and beyond, that this is the type capabilities necessary. It needs to have, all of the attributes of a helicopter, but fly really fast. We call it speed where it matters. Down low, very highly maneuverable, fly-by-wire systems. So, control inputs automatically. So it, in FLRAA's case, twice as far, twice as fast as current Black Hawk. And that's what transformational capability is about, but all in the same footprint as a Black Hawk. So those tight, formations that are landing, landing together in that staggered right formation, level body deceleration, not looking through the chin bubble trying to land a Black Hawk at night. So, but in particular on Raider X, again, the reconnaissance mission, attack reconnaissance mission is critical. I mean, whoever wins that reconnaissance fight, wins the battle. So that's why, having to go forward and gain and maintain contact with the enemy, that dynamic retasking capability of a scout helicopter. And if you think the Kiowa Warrior was underpowered, it was very slow, and it couldn't carry, a lot because it, but with Raider X, we've already proven with our S-97 Raider, and every time we fly Raider, that goes into our Raider X design, the lessons learned engineering. But really, it's that security zone, that ability to utilize and integrate into that joint fires network, get forward in zone in that security zone, and really feed that brigade combat team commander, the information that he needs. And I think that the speed is going to enable survivability. The mission systems are going to integrate directly, into the Joint Fires Network and give situational awareness integrated all the way up to the F-35. Interesting, our Raider X design, we chose a side-by-side configuration because we thought the value of having a very large weapons bay. And a large weapons bay really can facilitate, obviously much more ordnance, but also could be kittable. Because really we think, having that flexibility for that maneuver commander, you could take those, weapon racks out and you could put seats back there. I mean, there's a lot of flexibility associated, with that aircraft. But I think the reason that we went to X2 for the future is for growth. Because as a Black Hawk of today, or an Apache of today, is what they call as test your flight school memory, a fully articulated rotor system, that flaps up, flaps down, leads and lags. Well, an X2 design, doesn't do that. It's fixed in place. And so the retreating blade stall that you have with a fully articulated rotor system, any single main rotor aircraft has retreating blade stall. And that's fundamentally the reason why these aircraft fly around at 120, 130 knots. That's why you could, on a single engine on our S-97 Raider, you can fly 205 knots. We've done it multiple times. So add more horsepower, you go faster. There's no limitation on growth. And we all know that aircraft gain weight every year. We all understand that for a variety of reasons. But, growth, the ability to grow in the future with the X2 design, and then the large weapons bay adding that flexibility for the commander, what we think are necessary for the Raider X design.
Well, you've done a good job of summarizing what's driving the speed and the requirements. One of the things that commanders were frustrated with was the loss of some reconnaissance capability, which the FARA is going to take care of that and help the commander on the battlefield to have reconnaissance and attack capability. Shifting to another question about developing an aircraft today is the modular open system architecture. How has Sikorsky adjusted to that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's critical. I mean, the days of one OEM signing up and putting mission systems in an aircraft, and then you got to go back to that OEM to update it or do whatever. Those days are gone, and the Army has made that absolutely crystal clear, and we've fully embraced it. Because of you think that at the rate that the threat changes, which changes pretty rapidly, those systems to be updated should really be a software update, really. And the Army has communicated very clearly that you will have an open systems architecture, that the backbone will be there, and that the Army can drop in those different capabilities and those updates to the systems. And so we have fully embraced it. We've demonstrated it to the Army, and we're continuing to work very closely with them because we certainly understand, that there's benefit. There's also benefit from a sustainment, ability, when now you can actually move things around in the aircraft and they don't have to necessarily come back to the OEM. So again, we've fully embraced it, and we understand the need for it, and it's a great idea, and it's going to make the warfighter better.
Any concerns at all, from a final question, about Sikorsky, Lockheed Martin delivering these attributes, that these requirements that were driven for the Future Vertical Lift in the FARA program?
No, we absolutely, the X2 design, we feel gives the Army that maneuverability, that low-level maneuverability, that survivability, that is absolutely going to be necessary 2030 and beyond. We again, the Army has made it very clear that fly before you buy, and again, our CP aircraft is being built down in West Palm Beach, aircraft for Raider X, and we're at about 75%, complete on the aircraft down, working very closely, and with the PM on FARA, and I would say on FARA and FLRAA on the PMs, there's been an incredible collaboration with the Army on both of these programs, with Sikorsky, and with industry in general. And it's quite frankly, it's necessary. I mean, I think it's, I think this communication that's gone back and forth has really enabled, us to communicate, the Army to communicate what they think is necessary, for us to communicate how we believe we would solve some of those problems. And then that develops trade space. And so the Army certainly continues to refine that. And it's been a tremendous open dialogue in the development of what the eventual program or record requirements end up being. And is it tough? Yeah, it's tough. But it needs to be tough, because that environment that these aviators of the future are going to be flying in are something that you and I never faced, for sure, and so it needs to be tough, and we are absolutely committed to delivering this transformational capability to the Army, to taking everything we've learned to date through 40 plus years, all the way back to 1939, when the first Igor Sikorsky took off in the first helicopter with his fedora on. Yeah. Great picture. Up to today, with our commercial fleets, everything across the services, the combat reconnaissance, combat rescue helicopter with the Air Force, CH-53K with the Marine Corps. I mean, all of these things that we've learned, whether it be production, digital thread, what the threat, the X2 experience that we've endeavored on and continue to fly to this day. Defiant is flying today down to West Palm Beach, and the S-97 Raider is flying down to West Palm Beach today. And every flight is, rich in engineering data that goes right into those designs that reduces risk for both the FARA program and the FLRAA program. So it's very exciting to be a part of this, journey with the Army. The one thing that you think when you look at the S-97 Raider or Defiant, you just think of the innovation, and you think way back in the 70s when somebody at Sikorsky was thinking about what the Army needed, and the innovation to think of the Black Hawk, and what that iconic design is worldwide today. And what that aircraft has done, as the Army has gone out and done some very, very difficult missions with that aircraft. And so again, we're super excited where we are, and we're really looking forward to the future. Mm-hmm. And we truly believe that the X2 design, with opportunities, potential commonality, across the fleet, between a FARA and a FLRAA aircraft, and actually commonality of some systems backwards compatible into the Black Hawk as well. So it's an opportunity for the Army, and they're going to make a big decision. And but we think X2 is the right choice for the Army and for those aviators that are going to be out there on those dark nights in formation, in harm's way, the capability that's going to get them there and get them home every time.
Well, I will tell you that I never thought I'd see a helicopter going over 160 knots horizontally, not a, not a smaller helicopter like what we're producing today. So it's amazing that you've achieved that milestone going over 200 knots horizontally. So really impressive, the technology and what you're producing today. Jay, thank you for today and talking with our membership about the future attack reconnaissance aircraft.
Yeah. Thank you.